Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, it could be argued that the Bucks should tank for the rest of the season, but Giannis could get in the way of that. Meanwhile, after what we saw at the trade deadline, is the East still wide open? Plus, we are officially worried about NBA All-Star Weekend.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. I'm Wes Goldberg, and today we're talking about whether the Bucks should tank for the rest of the season or go for the playoffs. We'll take stock of the Eastern Conference and then talk about these embarrassing All-Star event lineups. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He's a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
Trade deadline's over. I still haven't recovered. My body's still a wreck from the trade deadline. I still don't know where Dalen Terry is. Does anyone know where Dalen Terry is?
He's back at his mama's house, Matt. That's where he is.
From the Locked On Bulls podcast, also a Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report, it's Haize.
From Tuesday till Thursday after the trade deadline, I had done 25 podcasts. 25.
That's a lot. That's a
We're all
lot.
Tired.
Bro. That's a lot.
We're all tired. We're all recovering. I don't know if you guys could tell, but like I'm congested. I don't even know. Like I got sick from the trade deadline. I don't even know what's going on.
I got a sinus infection. It's great.
Yep. That's hey, but we're playing through it. Before I jump into today's topics, I did have a question for you guys because I'm watching the Super Bowl last night, and here are these two teams, the Patriots and the Seahawks, who nobody saw making the Super Bowl before the season started. I think I saw a stat that they were both like 100-1 odds, even at the beginning of the playoffs, to make the Super Bowl, something like that. I was trying to think, what NBA comparison would it be for the finals in June? Two teams that are kind of at a point in their rebuilding process, maybe playing better as the season goes on, but definitely long shots to make the finals. Matt, do you have any thoughts? So
we can kind of talk about that specific kind of framework, as in like nobody saw them coming. I have a different one though. The Seahawks were the best team in football if you kind of take a holistic look at both sides of the ball all season. They were a legitimate champion. Like, they were absolutely incredible. Great season. So happy for Sam Darnold, who everyone doubted and was like, really, this guy can't be like a Super Bowl quarterback. And then he gets there. And then they played a team who had no business being there, who played no one and was a complete joke. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 2024 NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks, an adorable story where they just kind of snuck in and a whole bunch of things went their way. They didn't actually have to face the Nuggets. They didn't have to face anybody. Lou Dort shot like 10%, while PJ Washington shot like 75% on corner threes, while the Boston Celtics were actually a legitimate champion. That Super Bowl was fake in every amount. Like, it was just a fake Super. It was an AI-generated Super Bowl, and it was completely fake. And I'm just happy that the actual good team did, in fact, come out with the championship.
Haize, what do you think?
Go ahead.
No, your thoughts on the comp. Like, is that the comp?
I mean, I get the angle that Matt's going at it with. I'd say, and it's a little bit different in the NBA, right? Because every team does play every team in the NBA at least twice, right?
Right.
So it's different because, like, the Patriots, they had a very weak schedule. But I would say, like, a comp to it would be like if the Raptors made the NBA Finals against the OKC Thunder. They have a really good player. Like, I do think Drake May is going to be good. I don't know if he's going to be as good as his numbers were this year, but like, if they made it to the NBA Finals led by Scotty Barnes and then just ran up against the Thunder and got completely demolished in 4 games, would we really be surprised by that?
The longest odds preseason for an NBA champion since 1985 via sportsoddeshistory.com. You want to take a guess, Wes?
Like, for this season?
For like who had the longest odds to win the championship since the 85 in the NBA?
That actually won the championship?
Yes.
Oh, was it the 2006 Miami Heat?
It's the 2015 Golden State Warriors.
Really?
You believe that jump shots could win.
That's right.
28-1. To put you in context of like how different this is for NFL, 100-1 versus 28-1 is a huge differential there. Your 06 Heat were actually plus 350 to win the NBA title.
There you go.
Wow.
My comp idea, and I don't know if this is right, but it's like I'm trying to think like who's the Sam Darnold kind of character that it's
Tatum.
like maybe, but it's like yeah. All right, that's fine. Let's jump in. I want to talk about what's next for Giannis and the Bucks as we still deal with all the fallout from the trade deadline and the moves that were made, and in this case, the moves that were not made. That said, the Bucks did make an interesting post-deadline pickup that we'll talk about here for a second. But I did have a question for you guys. Giannis said that he plans to play again this season, but should he? Because on one hand, you want to make the playoffs, show Giannis that you could still be competitive, and then hopefully that helps him sign an extension in October. On the other hand, you're 21-29. You have the 8th worst record in the league as we're talking here. You have a chance at your first lottery pick in 10 years, and that can maybe help rebuild this roster around Giannis. They explored this question over at Locked On Bucks.
I'd be shutting things down personally. I not to say that, hey, we're going to shut everything down now and we are going to try to get the worst record in the league, because you're not going to catch some of these teams that have already got the head start on you. You're just not going to catch them. But I would just use the rest of the season as like, hey, we're going to reset. So we're going to give playing time to some of the young guys who we've been seeing with the playing time, who are starting to pop, and be like, hey, these could be guys that we continue to play going forward, like your Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr., AJ Green, Pete Nance, those 4 in particular. Let's see as much of them as we possibly can.
Haize, do you agree with Camille?
Yes, because the best thing, I honestly think at this point, even if Giannis wants to stay, the best thing is that they get a really high lottery pick in this draft. That's just my personal opinion. That's the best thing all the way around. It's best for the Milwaukee Bucks if they decide to trade Giannis this summer. It's best for the Milwaukee Bucks if they keep Giannis. Then you have a young player that can be ascending, and I get it. Who wants to play with teenagers? Giannis should, because they keep trying to add these pieces here, and it hasn't helped you move any type of needle. The best case for Giannis, especially if he is going to sign an extension in Milwaukee, is to hope that a young player in this draft, it only takes 2 years to really hit enough of their ceiling to where they can compete and contend.
I just think that we got to kind of think about the decision tree here. Like, who gets to decide whether Giannis plays or not?
Giannis. It's going to come down to Giannis.
Okay, so if Giannis is going to play, do you want Giannis to play, and are you going to try and tank with Giannis? Because that's not going to go well, because he's going to wind up feeling at the end of the season like, this team sucks.
They do in fact suck, so he'll just be coming to the realization.
You want him to kind of get to the end of the season and be like, okay, we play a little bit better. Like, that's the hope, is like, you know what? Bad year. We played really well that last half of the year. Like, we played really well. Kind of what they did last year is like they actually played pretty well the back half of the season after All-Star. So like, that's your hope, is to kind of get there. The other thing is, I would just continue to kind of say this is, I looked at some data this weekend, and one of the things I looked at was how many times has a player been drafted in the top 6, made all NBA, and that team won the title. So you drafted top 6, that guy made all NBA and won the title that year. And in the last 20 years, Haize, the number is once. Jason Tatum, 2024. That's it. And so, like, the big lesson here is not that you don't get great players in the draft. You objectively do. You will get players who eventually will become all-stars and all NBA level players if you draft in the top 6 consistently. But they won't necessarily be that for you. They'll be that for another team after you mistakenly trade them, or they force their way out in a trade demand. So I'm not sure that this is like worth all of this kind of consideration and the rebuilding hope in all of this. Also, with the lottery odds, you can tank and it not work out for you anyway. Like last year, the Mavericks still tried to be good, even though they were terrible, and they wanted to win the lottery. This is what we've seen. Sixers, right? Spurs. I don't think there's any harm in just kind of playing it out and seeing where the chips fall.
Yeah, to your point, Matt, Milwaukee 21-29 right now. They're 15-15 with Giannis in the 30 games that Giannis has played this year. It's not exactly like if you play Giannis, this is going to be a team that takes off all of a sudden up the Eastern Conference standings. They're probably just going to be bad, right? They might not even have the luxury of making this decision.
What's the record with Giannis?
15-15.
So they're 500.
Yeah.
Like, but here's the thing though, Wes, is like, also, they've got 29 losses. They're 5 back of the Magic, who I do not think are good. That's the 7 spot.
Right.
And I don't know if you're like, well, what's the point? I get you. I hear you. But also just like, all right, you get into the 7, you take on either the Celtics or the Knicks. You either take them long in that series or you somehow get past them. The momentum completely shifts on your entire franchise. It just does.
Yeah. Well, we've heard how Giannis is talking after these losses too, and I do think if you're tanking and purposely losing, the wear and tear that could do on Giannis's morale is another risk there that's worth considering. Even if like sort of the Excel spreadsheet part of this all says, yeah, tank, get the pick, right? Go get that player or use that player to go get somebody who could help, build up the supporting cast around Giannis. They did make an interesting move. They pick up Cam Thomas right after the trade deadline. We're going to talk about that. Plus, the Eastern Conference still wide open. We'll talk about that next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is giving you $50 in lineups when you play and sign up and make your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you pick right, you could cash in. You could choose from basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, UFC, and more. Plus, they've got features like early payouts and flex play, so you've got options while the games are still happening. I downloaded the app and I was surprised by how easy it was to get started. It took just a couple of minutes to build my first lineup, and I've been making NBA lineups around players that I already follow, picking more or less on points and assists, and it honestly makes every possession way more fun to watch. I also love the social feature, where you can see what other people are playing and copy lineups with one click. It's a cool way to learn and build better picks. And it's available in all 50 states, so it's easy for just about anybody to jump in. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. The best way to support the show, subscribe on YouTube. We air Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. Before we move on to the Eastern Conference as a whole, I did want to just touch on this one pickup. The Milwaukee Bucks add Cam Thomas after the deadline. He was waived by the Nets after they couldn't find a trade for him. Haize, do you think that this could be a difference maker for them?
I mean, potentially, yeah. I'm not going to say Cam Thomas would come in and drastically change something, but having somebody who can shoot the ball like Cam Thomas does, we've talked about the formula for Giannis is surround him with shooters. Cam Thomas can shoot, and I also think he can maybe help them a little bit on the off minutes when Giannis is off the court. So yeah, I think this definitely can help him, and it's in the East too, so those little things make a difference.
24 years old. Back in 2024, 2 years ago, he shot 36% from 3. And 48% from 2. That's really good. 22.5 points per game. Needs to get the assist up. He's got some real playmaking chops, but he needs to be more of a passer and a playmaker. I don't know. I don't know, because I do think that Cam gets labeled a lot with this very broad brush of how terrible he is because of the team that he played for. Like, the Nets have not been good or tried to be good in quite a long time. It's been several years since Kevin Durant was traded. And just like, Cam was in an unorganized system for a lot of years with no direction. And then Jordy's, I think, put more demands on him in terms of accountability, and that's fine. But they also purposefully didn't play him and put him in bad positions to depress his value. Mm-hmm. Like they very clearly were like, we're not gonna let you get good value in restricted free agency. And they just waived him. So I don't know. Like, I do not believe, I am not convinced entirely that Cam Thomas is a losing player. Bucks Film Room on Twitter, though, did note that 24-year-olds do not get waived after the deadline if they're good. That's true.
He is averaging 15.6 points per game right now. He averaged 24 points per game last year, 22.5 the year before that. Kevin Porter Jr. right now is Milwaukee's second leading scorer at 17.1 points per game. It would not be crazy for Cam Thomas to walk in and immediately be Milwaukee's second leading scorer. Whether or not that actually contributes anything important, I suppose, is the big question here. But I do want to zoom out on the Eastern Conference as a whole, guys. At the top, Pistons, second best record in the league. The Knicks have won 9 of their last 10 games. The Cavs won their first game with James Harden in the lineup over the weekend. Even, you keep going lower in the standings. You got the Hornets playing really well. They've won 9 games in a row. So there's been a lot of talk about the Eastern Conference going into the season and throughout the season about it being wide open. But now that we're at the other side of the trade deadline here, Haize, how many teams can you see winning the Eastern Conference? Is this conference still, in other words, wide open?
Yeah, I think Detroit, Boston, New York, the Cavs. I wouldn't be surprised if they could win the East too. So yeah, I wouldn't count them out. I wouldn't even necessarily count out Philly or Toronto either. Like, I'm not saying that all these teams have the highest chance to win the East, but depending on the matchups and how the seeding ends up working, I can make a case for any of those teams winning these. I still would bet on the Pistons. If Jason Tatum does come back for the Boston Celtics, I'd probably switch my bet to them. But like I said, in the East, the point differential does matter. Like the way the point differential shakes out, you say, go check my work on that. A lot of times it's very close to how the seeding ends up finishing out. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not going to count out the Pistons, but I wouldn't lock them in with winning yet either.
Boston's got a really tough closing schedule. And sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. But a lot of their success is built on, they have the 29th ranked strength of schedule defensively so far this season, 28th overall, but Detroit's over at 30th. Like, these teams just haven't played anybody. And you think, and by the end of the season, the stuff does narrow more and more. It's already pretty tight. You're talking about a point here, a half point. I think for me, if we're looking at it from a probabilistic standpoint, it's probably Celtics, Knicks. I think it's Celtics, Knicks, Cavaliers. And I don't want to be, I love Detroit. I love Detroit. I really do. Haize one of my favorite guys to watch. They don't have enough offensive explosiveness, and them not getting a guy at the deadline concerns me, because I think that they added guys who are a little bit more versatile, but they do miss that pure shooting punch they had last year with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. And without that, it gets a little worrisome. Like, their backup point guard is a two-way guy that they're converting. Like, he was a guy they traded Jaden Ivey for. And I think Jenkins has been great. They rely so much on drawing fouls, rebounding, that kind of play. That can take you far. You have to have enough offensive explosiveness, I think, to get past. And I just have a little bit of a concern that I think the Pistons might be peaking too early and might be a second round out. So I would put.
Detroit fans are not going to like hearing that.
I know. I don't want to do this. I love Detroit. I was all about
I like Detroit a lot this season. I love Detroit a lot.
There's so much fun, but also just like they're 12th on offense, and it's mostly just like rebound. Like, Cade can't make layups. That's a problem.
Yeah, I think Haize and I are higher on Detroit than Matt is at this point. I think that defense is legitimately a weapon. They turn opponents over at a rate that only the Thunder can match or exceed. And I think, as we saw last year in the playoffs, that really does matter. And if Cade is just good enough, now they're going to need somebody to, Matt, to your point, they're going to need somebody to be like the PJ Washington of their playoffs, right? Like, they're going to need a PJ Washington or a Caleb Martin type of like hot streak, probably, to make it all the way to the finals. But that stuff happens, right? Like, it's
so
not...
let me ask you this. All right. They're great. They have the highest defensive foul rate in the league. Is that good going into the playoffs?
If you ask them, it's by design, right? Like, they want to be pressed up into you. They want to do it.
They blow up screens more than anybody else. It's amazing. Like, what they do is legitimately awesome.
And they'll tell you they call fewer fouls in the playoffs. We're not as worried about it.
Well, they don't, though. It's a problem. Is like, if you actually look, like, the free throw rate, it doesn't actually. That's just a misnomer.
That's a fair point.
There's more fouls that occur, but the actual number of fouls doesn't really go down. They're 27th in 3-point rate and 20th in 3-point percentage. Like, I'm just telling you, like, they're gonna have a math problem.
They're going to have games. They're going to need a PJ Washington, Caleb Martin, somebody transform into Klay Thompson for a couple of weeks.
Detroit makes the finals. I will be thrilled. That's awesome. I think they are an awesome team with a great coach, great personalities. It's great. I just look at the other teams and I kind of think, like, I trust Cleveland, Boston, and New York more, despite all of my reservations about New York. Who are you like willing to be like, they are not making the finals in the East?
So that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, right? Like, let's go down the list of teams and just stop me when you hear a team that you would be shocked to learn if you woke up the day of the finals. Or like, that team is in the NBA. That's the team that made it out of the Eastern Conference. as much as we're talking about the Detroit, I don't think anybody would be shocked if they made the finals at this point, right?
Right. No.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to keep going. New York, Boston, Cleveland, Toronto.
No, there's no way.
Right. That I think Philadelphia.
Haize, what do
Shocked?
you think about
Probably
about
not.
Philly? Haize, what do you think about Philly?
Man, it really depends on, like, I like Philly and I like them to actually probably make it out the first round. If they want to get to the finals, they're going to need Joel Embiid to be healthy past the second round. And that's where I worry a little bit about it. Like, Maxi's having an amazing season, MVP caliber season, but I just don't know if that's going to be enough to get them to the finals. So I'll give them a chance, but Embiid's going to have to be healthy.
I almost wonder if this Paul George 25-game suspension is kind of a blessing in disguise for them.
Is
Just
he going to
to
keep
make
him
sure-
healthy?
Yeah,
Could
exactly.
be.
Exactly. I'm not going to go. If I get into like the Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte, I think all of us would be very surprised if any of
Yeah.
those teams made the finals. But
Right.
that's
So the top 5 to 6, you
Five
think all
that-
have a legitimate chance?
that's like 5.5 teams. Yeah, like 4.5 teams that we think can win the Eastern Conference. That's about as many. That's about as many teams as the Western Conference. I think we would say, right?
I think it's interesting just because the Cavaliers started off so behind the curve, and they've been slowly like grinding their way back to where they kind of need to be. The Knicks, it's every other week. One week it's like this team is a mess, they're a disaster, they hate each other. The next week is this is the best defensive team in basketball and no one can stop them.
Right. They would love for the playoffs to start right now.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, maybe they would be saying something different. So like we only touched on the James Harden part in Cleveland. The Cavs got their first win over the Sacramento Kings with James Harden in the lineup. We are going to talk about some of the new faces and new places later in the week as we can continue to see more of a sample with these guys on their teams. But I did think that was a useful exercise to at least talk about, okay, this is the Eastern Conference now. What are we kind of looking like at this point? But we're going to move on to the another one of our favorite segments, NBA All-Star Weekend. Is it shaping up to be a dud? And why one three-point contest participant has us scratching our heads? We'll talk about that next.
One.
All? Several? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events that you get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years, and that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports that you care about the most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. I was locked onto my couch on Sunday morning watching America play Estonia or something like that in curling. I think we won. I don't remember. Speed skating races decide by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Every niche, even niche events, become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaged from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding somebody willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping that the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want somebody who can help. I'd want somebody with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you're looking for. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches, and with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a good fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Bucks, Locked On Cavs, Locked On Knicks, Locked On Hornets for more on today's top stories. We usually end our Monday episodes with weekend winners and losers, but I'm going to cut to the chase, guys. I think it's just a bunch of losers right now after this weekend, because I take a look at the All-Star events and the lineups that we have for them. What is going on? Did you guys see this for the 3-point contest, the lineup? Damian Lillard is in the 3-point contest alongside Devin Booker, Contention, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray, Bobby Portis, and Norm Powell. How is Damian Lillard in the 3-point contest, Matt?
I mean, I guess he's been cleared to shoot. Like, I do not want this to happen. Obviously, but like, what if he gets hurt again?
That would be insane if he gets hurt in the 3-point. Could you imagine the optics of that?
I'm just, and so I understand he's a multi-time winner. I get it, but man, and it's like cool to see him. It's like, I wonder if he's just like, I want to remind people I'm around, but it's just like, man, why is this happening? The 3-point field I actually think is pretty good. It's like Contention, Jamal Murray. That's really good. What Bobby Portis, though?
That's the one that I was also like,
why?
I like look at all the contestants. There's one that's not like the other. Now I get it. Bobby Portis is a career 38% 3-point shooter, but on very, very low volume.
Is he shooting all of them from the corners? Does he get to put all of his racks in the corner?
He may make every corner 3 and miss all the other ones.
He's usually try to put a big man in this contest, so I get it.
I mean, he's 45% from 3 this season, I guess.
Watch him win it. Watch him win it. But the Damian Lillard thing, this was sort of my issue with like Mac McClung being in the dunk contest last year. You have to be playing in NBA games to be. I know this is not the NBA All-Star game, but it's still the NBA All-Star weekend. And I would assume that the players in these events are playing in NBA games. And Damian Lillard's injured. Like, is Tatum going to come out and start shooting threes at one point? Like, what's going? Why are we doing this?
Bring Ray Allen back out. Why not at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll also say, like, there were some complaints, I think, from Memphis this weekend about Cam Spencer not getting in. There's either Cam Spencer or Pat Spencer for the Golden State. The league does have kind of a problem with this where they don't necessarily put in the best shooters, which I have always thought was weird. Is like, I feel like the 3-point contest should purely be like, hey, do you average X amount of attempts per game?
Just filter them out and send the invitations.
Yeah, then you should. That's how it should be determined. Is like, how much do you shoot? Like Sam Merrill is at 45% from 3 on 5+ attempts per game. He's not in it. AJ Green is at 43% per game. Max Christie's 43. Like, there's all these guys. I get that this has become like the star event because Steph Curry ruins everything, but I just feel like we've gone a little too far with some of this, and we could probably have a reshaping of the contest.
Speaking of reshaping of a contest, the dunk contest.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
What is happening? The 4 participants, Carter Bryant, who is an NBA player who plays for the Spurs, is in the dunk contest. And when I say plays for the Spurs, I use that term loosely. Jackson Haize, Keyshawn Johnson, and Jace Richardson. These are your dunk contest participants. Haize, should the league be embarrassed by this?
Absolutely. They should be embarrassed by the entirety of the weekend. This, I'm going to save my rant. I know we'll probably talk about it coming up next Monday, but like this whole entire event, the whole entire weekend is just a farce. There's not a single draw the whole entire weekend. People spend their money, they travel out. The NBA should absolutely be embarrassed by what they're putting out there as far as a product.
And, it's there's this thing now where if you're critical about anything, it's why do you hate basketball? And I'm just like, no, I love basketball. That's why I hate All-Star Weekend, because there's so little about basketball. I feel bad. I always feel bad for these guys because they've signed up to do this thing that no one else will do. They put themselves out there, and then they are just the butt of jokes over and over and over again. And maybe like they will come out and throw down something absolutely ridiculous. Like, that's entirely possible. But there is a level to this where like Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, one of the best dunk contests ever. Those are not 2 megastars, but they were known NBA players. Like, those are starters. Like, Aaron Gordon was number 4. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, Wes. I watch a lot of Heat games. I don't know who Keyshawn Johnson is.
A lot of Heat fans don't know who Keyshawn Johnson is. He He was a two-way player last year who got promoted to a 15-man contract at the end of the season, and he barely plays right now. Look, to your point, these guys could be the greatest dunkers of all time. It doesn't make it good, right? There's a thing in journalism school you learn about like newsworthiness, right? And a lot of impact and timeliness and all these things are a part of newsworthiness, but so is the prominence. Prominence is something that we learn about all the time, right? If the president does something, it is inherently newsworthy because it's the president, right? If Keyshawn Johnson puts the greatest dunk ever down during this dunk contest, it's just not gonna matter as much.
Right.
If LeBron James, for instance, had an average dunk, right? Because prominence here really matters. And when it comes to this lineup, there is zero prominence. Like, even nobody cares about any of these players, about whether or not any of these players are good dunkers. These are not rotation level players, except for Jackson Haize, who you can argue is only a rotation level player because it's the Lakers and it's their center position.
Why on earth is Anthony Edwards not in this thing? Why does Ant feel he is above this?
Well, I guess
because his GOAT, LeBron James, felt like he was above it.
Yeah, you could argue LeBron. For as much work as the NBA has done in trying to quote unquote fix the All-Star game, they have done pretty much zero on the dunk contest.
I think honestly the league needs to call the bluff, but the problem is like it gets sponsored and they don't want to turn down the money, but they just need to call the bluff and be like, all right, we're getting rid of it. You guys don't want to do it. So we're going to because you know what will happen if they get rid of it? The players will be like, where's the dunk contest?
Right.
And somebody will be like, bring it back. I'll do it. Because then
you can position it where it's like, I saved the dunk contest.
Yes.
There could be a player that could now say that.
I just, we need to rethink the entire All-Star weekend. And it's just, there's nostalgia and there's history and there's like, this is like a cultural moment. And I get all those things. It feels so lost right now in terms of what it was to where it is. And there's no connect, like it is just a money-making venture.
Yep.
And I do not have any sort of like, I can't find reasons to be excited about it. I will say, like, if you go to All-Star Weekend, there's a lot to love there. It's a celebration of basketball. And the NBA, I think, does a great job with that. The problem is not really the NBA. The problem is the players here. Like, they're the ones that makes the All-Star Weekend kind of suck.
So for once, it's not Adam Silver, it's the players.
For once, it's not Adam Silver.
Well, they could do a U.S. versus the world dunk contest. Maybe that'll fix it.
Sure.
I fixed the dunk contest for him. Somebody needs to get my idea in front of Adam Silver. I'm telling you.
What's that again?
Street ball.
Just have your each NBA player, one of the All-Stars, pick one of the best dunkers from around the world, street ballers, and sponsor them for the dunk contest. Brings a different level of competition.
If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.